Shout it from the rooftops. McMahon has Joe Takash on the program, who's going to be talking to business people about communication. He's going to be talking to employees and employers about communication. He's doing mom and dad, and any of you kids, by the way, who are skipping school today. Joe Takash, one of the keys that you began to talk about in the last segment, the 4 sins of bad listeners, and I was listening so intently, we only got to number 1. So, sin number 2.
Sin number 2 is the mother of all rudeness when it comes to listening, interrupting.
One of my absolute pet peeves in the world.
That's exactly why I'm not going to interrupt you right now.
I noticed the silence.
So shall I expound accordingly?
Please.
Okay. So interrupting is ultimately telling the other person non-verbally, which, by the way, for those of you out there in Pat McMahon land, over 90% of what you communicate is non-verbal, whether you realize it or not. When you interrupt something, what you are non-verbally telling the person is what you have to say is of inferior value than what I have to say. And that's why interrupting is, and so, oh, by the way, and here's a little rationalization too. If you do have to interrupt me, or I have to interrupt you, say, excuse me, do you mind if I interject? Which is the same thing, but it sounds more polite.
Well, excuse me is a nice beginning.
Yes.
Instead of just jumping in with a phrase that makes my skin crawl, like, oh, you think that's something? You're telling somebody a story. You're telling somebody about an experience. Oh, listen, that's nothing. Now listen, we're competing all of a sudden for who has the better story.
Well, and that is definitely within the family of interrupting, one-upmanship, which is, you make $2, I make $3.
Is that sin 2A?
Well, it actually serves as an appropriate segue between 2 and 3, which is 3 is, so you have rehearsing.
Yeah.
Number 1. Number 2, interrupting.
Make notes, please.
Okay. Number 3, sentence finishing. So I'm going to, and by the way, I've got to talk about the importance of being an honest listener, which we'll get into number 4. But number 3 is sentence finishing. And as a communicator and a behavior strategist, I've got to come up with the behaviors. That's what I'm paid for, to help you. But guess what? I have to listen.
I have to listen.
And you don't start sentences with the intention for me to finish it.
For me to finish.
Yes, exactly. You know what? It's funny when you say that. I was just thinking the same thing, but my thoughts were a little faster than yours. I'm going back to 2A.
But it's true, and people do it, and they don't even realize they're doing it.
No, they don't, and that's why they don't get feedback. And so as a result, don't finish sentences. Here's the soundbite. People don't start sentences with the intention for you to finish. That simple.
I will tell you, the only key that I have been able to find that will get someone's attention when they do that consistently is to say immediately. Now, do you remember the written agreement that we had that if I begin a sentence,
yes,
I get to start it? And so many times they are stunned that you said it because they didn't even realize that they had done it, and they've been doing it all their lives.
Yes, although I will say this, and I'm going to one-up you, if I may. Now I'm feeling hypersensitive about every rule that I'm trying to cajole you and your listeners into, is you have an ability, as personality of the year. It's amazing. I have one other thought. I have the Arizona Takashes here with me, so a shout out to the Arizona Takashes, especially Uncle Tom, who I know is a big sports fan. When you forget your own thought, that means you haven't listened to yourself, and that's a short-term memory issue. So I forgot where I was going. Can you help me?
Yes, it's the Arizona Takashes, and you must never forget anything that follows the phrase personality of the year.
That's good. Personality
Please
of the year.
continue with that thought.
I'm thinking we call it Pat personality of the year. That's what it was. My influences, my inspiration when we visited Arizona as a kid. 3 of them. Number 1, the Circle K. We have nothing like that in Chicago. Number 2, Rondo. My cousin Patrick Takash says it goes down hard, right? And I know you had a show about sex last week, so we shan't not revisit that. The 3rd one, I can't remember. His name is something like Captain Good.
Oh, no, Captain Super.
Captain Super,
Captain
that's
Super.
what it was.
Right.
And
when you come to my show, it's always good to be prepared.
Right, but that's part of being honest and self-disclosing.
Yes. But in Chicago, of course, all you had to do is remember short names like Bozo.
Or Gerald.
Yeah. By the way, does any of this actually continue on in the area of how is this going to change my life? Absolutely not. But I like the self-serving part.
I'm sorry about that. Purposeful tangents, we call those.
Sin 4.
Sin 4, friendly faking. And this,
No, last week was Sex Week.
very good, yes.
Friendly faking.
Friendly faking.
at
I'm not
what?
going into any tangents right now. I'm staying on task.
Yes.
Friendly faking is when someone starts to explain something, and with about 20 seconds left to go in their rambling explanation, there's a voice in your head that says, "Red alert, we did not listen to one thing that Pat said." So what do? We go, "Really? No kidding." That's if you have an up-tempo tone of voice. If you seem downtrodden, I might go, "Wow, I'm really sorry to hear about that." Now, if you asked me what I said, I'd say, "I have no idea what you were talking about." And so that leads to a tip for you executives out there and spouses, is to say, "Honey, I apologize. For the last 5 minutes, I didn't listen to a single word that you said." Now, in the event, Pat, that you forget a second time or you don't listen the second time, just say, "That's great. That's just phenomenal. I'm with you. I'm a big fan of what you're saying right now."
And of course, on this program, that's all you ever have to say.
That's all you do.
Self-disclosure. I think I'm a good listener. I am told that I am a good listener because I'm really interested.
Yeah.
But at home, the biggest mistake I make is trying to fix the problem that my wife is telling me about, when in fact, all she wants to do is to tell me about the problem she had that day.
Yes.
Do we do that regularly? Is it just a husband thing?
I think it's more male-oriented. It also has to do with personality-oriented, too, which is, if for those who have ever done a discovery personality test, you're either a driver or an influencer. And you think you're solving the problem, but in fact, when being the answer man, or in cases, answer woman, what you do is you diminish 50% of what they have to say. And let's look at it this way. Very simply, personally or professionally, Pat, listening is therapy. And oftentimes people don't want your answers, they want to be heard. Did you understand that?
Yes, I did. And in fact, because of the fact that I'm making notes and taking the book home with me so that I never make that same mistake again, give me something for them to take away with them, okay? Whether it's in the book or not, just one single clue that will make them more impressive to the boss, to the spouse, to a casual acquaintance.
Boy, there's so many of them. I would say I go back to feedback. We are a society that is not given feedback. Why? We have not been shown how to give or get feedback. So we receive it and we get defensive, we take it as personal attacks, or we've never been taught how to give it. So I would say get feedback and think of feedback in one word: a gift. That's 2 words. Let's use the latter of the 2. It's a gift. It's an opportunity to constantly improve. If I can, also one final thing, and this is an attitudinal thing. Life is not a dress rehearsal, as my mother used to say to me, or she still says when she makes me breakfast because I live in their basement. But she would say, yesterday, you may have heard this, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. So open your present as personality of the year.
Okay, you can do a whole lot. You can do a great deal for yourself, as a matter of fact, with your business relationship or your social relationships, by taking a look through the book and finding out the sins that you commit and how you can take care of it. And you can also do something for the Takash family by buying a book and getting Joe out of the basement. They really would like a life of their own. This is Pat McMahon. I'll be back in a moment.